Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the TMZ Podcast. I'm Charlie Cotton, and today I'm joined by TMZ's #1 lawyer and host of the Last Days podcast, Jason Beckerman.
Good to be here with you, Charlie. Seriously, I'm excited to be here. It's nice. You've taken this podcast on and you've made it into something it never could have been without you.
Well, yeah, it's really humming now, man.
Yeah,
it's really going really well.
It is. Thanks to you.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but thank you. Today on the podcast, we're going to do a lot of Lizzo because Lizzo's in hot water, but she doesn't feel like she should be. So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're also going to talk about the Bachelorette, Gabby. She was on 2 seasons, one of The Bachelor, then of The Bachelorette. Then she was on Dancing with the Stars. She's just come out and said she's dating a woman. So we're going to talk about that too. To begin with, Lizzo. There's a big sort of she said about like what happened in, say, that Amsterdam sex club. Were Lizzo's employees, the dancers that she had hired, did they feel pressured to do sexual acts they didn't feel like they wanted to do? Can you tell me more about this story?
Yeah, so a few days ago it came out, these 3 women filed a lawsuit against Lizzo saying that basically Lizzo created a hyper-sexualized atmosphere, especially in this Amsterdam club, but otherwise as well. And because they were sort of beholden to Lizzo for their livelihood, right? They were employees of hers. They felt a lot of pressure to go along with it. We can talk a little bit about whether they were specifically told they had to go along or whether they feel pressure. But employees who feel pressure file lawsuits all the time, right? The classic case would be the guy takes his employees to the strip clubs and they're not really comfortable there. And then he sort of implores them that to be cool, to be popular, maybe to be promoted, you need to play along, even if he doesn't explicitly say it. So
well,
that's pretty much what they're saying
This
here.
is that.
Right. And so they say, look, Lizzo created this really sexualized atmosphere. They felt that they had no choice but to play along, touching these women's breasts, like there were dancers there. They had to touch their butts,
Breasts.
I guess, their breasts, right, and their butts. And if they didn't do it, they just weren't going to get advancement. They might be fired. And so they felt compelled to do it.
Well, we actually had 2 of the women accusing Lizzo on TMZ Live yesterday, and we asked them if they felt pressured or was it explicit instructions from Lizzo, and this is what they had to say.
I think for both of us, there was like this always looming feeling of thinking that if you didn't do something or you didn't adhere to certain suggestions or demands that your job could be in jeopardy.
There is so many instances where dancers who did, have fun with her and, go along with like what she was doing and, be down for anything that they were favored.
So Lizzo is a very sexual performer, a very sexual person if you follow her on social media. And Amsterdam is a very sort of sexual, explicit town.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not good, or it's terrible if these women were, subjected to something they didn't want to be subjected to. But when you go out with Lizzo to a sex club in Amsterdam, some shit's going to go down.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Do you get what's coming to you at some point, right? If you go to work at Playboy, you're obviously going to be exposed to, or Playboy back in the day, going to be exposed to naked women in hypersexualized situations. If you go to work for Lizzo, maybe you're taking a little bit of that risk on as well. But there's a difference between what happens on stage or in front of the cameras and when you go out with no cameras are allowed, on the night of the town with the talent. Are you really accepting that as a sexualized situation where you have to put up with the boss's weirdness as well? And that's where this distinction is going to be drawn between what happens in front of the cameras and his situation like this, totally off the cameras.
Maybe it shouldn't matter, technically, but Lizzo being like a big pop star who we all kind of know a little bit who she is and what she's about, is that different than sort of like, say, a boss at an accounting firm taking his employees off to the strip club and you're like, whoa, bro. Like, is that different, or is it still like an employer-employee relationship that should be upheld?
It's definitely employee-employee relationship, employer-employee relationship that has to be upheld. The distinction is, and I think you were getting at this, is were they aware when they said yes to going to the strip club? Did they feel that they could say no? When they were going to the strip club, they knew what sort of environment they were going to get themselves into. So it's really the decision to go to the strip club in the first place that I think, did they feel they could have walked away? If they felt that they had to go to it, you have a problem right off the bat if you're the employer and your employee doesn't want to go because you're taking them to a place, to your point, that is, it's gonna be weird stuff happening there.
It's gonna be great.
Great stuff.
In my opinion.
Great weird stuff. But then there's the second element of forcing you to touch their butts and their breasts. That's beyond the pale of anything.
But what, did she grab her hand and put it on the butt?
Well,
it sounds like no.
So that sounds like no. Right. But now we get into the point of when your boss says, look, come on, do it. And you don't feel that you can say no, or you might suffer a consequence of your job. Now, maybe we think she's lying about that, and that's very possible. And we'll talk about other videos that have now come out and stuff. But if you think she's telling the truth about that she did feel pressured, that's a claim.
But that's a claim. The girls didn't say Lizzo said, do it.
No,
they just felt kind of
well, they were
pressured.
goaded. They said in the complaint they were goaded into doing it.
Which could mean a lot of different, suggests wink and a nudge.
Yes, it could.
Well, it'll be interesting to know if any of the backup dancers stayed back at the hotel that night.
It would be interesting to know
because if there was like 2 or 3 girls who were like, I don't feel comfortable, stay at the hotel, and these women who are now accusing Lizzo went to that club and then felt goaded, then I think their case is weaker.
It's weak. It's weaker for sure. You still have the element of I went to the strip club, but it never occurred to me I was going to be goaded into touching a woman's breast that I didn't want to do. And one woman makes a big deal. That's what she should in her complaint that she's a very Christian woman, and she was sort of being pushed to her limits, but she kept saying yes and kept doing it. And then all of a sudden it got to a point where she just couldn't say yes anymore, but she felt her job was in the line. So you got to ultimately a jury has to decide whether you believe them or not.
Do we all, like, at our jobs, I mean, it's not sexual, but do we feel pressured to do things, like, because this is the job and that's the employer?
Well, the difference is sexual or not, right?
I guess.
What I mean, it depends if it's if it's an act that the law defines as something that's abusive.
True.
That's where the difference
True.
is.
So as a lawyer, like, from all the evidence that's come to light so far, and everything might change, but as a lawyer, from everything that you know, whose side are you on? Where do you think the law would side with?
Before I answer that question, let me talk about what happened this morning,
okay,
right? So this morning, video has emerged of one of the accusers praising Lizzo months after the alleged incident, praising Lizzo, saying how much it meant to her, how great it was to be on tour with her. Now, she can later explain that away or try to explain that away as, oh, it was just after the fact. I was just like doing press for it and I wanted to say positive things. That's a really bad fact for the plaintiff, right? That video out there where at the one time she says in her complaint, I was destroyed. I was completely, my whole life was destroyed based on this, and I was traumatized by it. And then to have this video emerge where she, full-throatedly talks about how fantastic Lizzo is and what a great element of her, or what a great person for her career she's been. That's a hard fact for the plaintiff.
Who's that? Who's she telling that to? Where's the video coming from? Like, is it part of the Big Girls Lizzo production? Where is she talking to Lizzo when she's saying how great it is to work with Lizzo?
No. She's talking to camera, but it is press for the tour.
Okay.
Look,
might feel goaded into that statement
too. Might feel goaded, yes. Or if not goaded, at least feel that she has to say it in order to continue. And also, she wants to be hired for the next gig, gig. And so, but at some point, you got to own what you've done, right? And you were getting this a little bit. If you grab the breast, like, you got to own that to a point. If you claim that, well, you were pressured into it, how far does that go? At some point, your jury's going to say, I don't really know that this woman, when is she standing up for herself? When she's grabbing the breast, she's not doing it. When she's speaking in front of the public, she's not doing it. It's just a bad fact. It's not what they call in the law dispositive. It doesn't end the case. It doesn't win the case for Lizzo that she said this after the fact, but it's a really bad fact for the plaintiff. So to answer your question, I think it's definitely going to settle for a small amount of money.
And maybe that's what the accusers want.
Well, they wanted a big amount of money, for sure.
Right.
And this that comes out today, it's embarrassing for the plaintiff. It's a small amount of money. It's also, they're not going to get the public apology from Lizzo. When you go into these things, you want for somebody as wealthy as Lizzo, you want the 7-figure check and you want an apology. So that not only do you get the 7 figures, but you're vindicated so you can go out and get the next job with the next performer. If you don't get that, if you get the small amount of money, you've also now sued performers. And the next performer that comes along is going to say, I have 4 equal dancers. This one over here sued her former employer. I don't want to deal with that.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah,
so they might lose money out of it
in the long term. It could end up being a bad thing. And if this woman was victimized, it's a shame. But that's the way the world works. Right. I don't know how to say it.
And we should point out that Lizzo has adamantly denied the accusations.
Yeah.
For the record, and I know, this is being recorded. Yeah, so I'm happy to go to a strip club with you. If
Oh,
you're
yeah.
my employer. If you want to take me to a strip club, I want it on the record.
First, you do not work for me. If Harvey would take you, but I would love to go to a strip club with you.
Well, Harvey might take me to a different sort of strip club.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy strip clubs. I got to tell you.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I don't,
It's just for kind of like a laugh.
I only like it for a social situation. Yeah, bachelor party kind of thing.
I don't like when anyone gets turned on at a strip club.
No.
It's just for fun.
Yeah, I agree completely. Don't get turned on. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go.
That's the rule. Do not get. That's our manifesto. Do not get turned on at the strip club.
Yeah, yes. Okay, on to our next story. Former Bachelorette, Gabby Windey, has come out as she's dating a woman, which is mind-blowing news if you're part of Bachelor Nation. I've been following...
Or if you're from 1982, because this happens all the time now, right?
It does.
All of our reality stars are coming out.
That's very true.
Yes, Bachelor Nation loves everything and is amazed by everything that comes out of The Bachelor.
Well, I mean...
You're Bachelor Nation. So.
I think I'm less Bachelor Nation. I've kind of like set sail from Bachelor Nation the last few seasons.
Okay.
But I did watch Gabby's season. So Gabby was she was on The Bachelor, where she was vying for the affection of some guy. His name's Clayton. So she got pretty far along, and then Clayton actually decided he didn't want any of the girls. He's like, I'm going to leave single. And so they made Gabby and another girl who was left left by Clayton. They made them joint bachelorettes. So there was 2 bachelorettes, big, huge season. All of these guys vying for their affection. At the end, Gabby chooses this guy. His name is Eric. They got engaged. They got engaged. The engagement only lasted a few months before they parted ways. Then we didn't really know much about Gabby's dating life. She was on Dancing with the Stars. She came second. But now she come out on The View and said, look, I'm dating a woman. And it's quite mind-blowing because she has been in the public eye for the last 5 years, all about dating men. Like, that is her profile. She's looking for a man. And now it turns out she's found a woman. It's very like the Colton Underwood situation. You might remember how he came out as gay at the end of the day.
But she's not coming out as a lesbian, right? She's coming out as bi-curious, maybe bisexual,
yes.
whatever it is.
She didn't say her sexuality. Yeah. She's just saying, I'm dating a woman now.
Okay.
So whatever that means.
Yeah.
She's saying, I didn't see it coming. She said it was a whisper that got louder inside of me.
Well, good for her, right? I mean, good for her. If this is sort of her truth, then she should live that truth. We're seeing it a lot in reality television, right?
Right.
I mean,
with Chrishell.
Well, we had in Kyle Richards. There were rumors, not rumors, I guess. In whispers, rumors, maybe kind of verified that she was curious about dating a woman for a while too. So it's happening all the time. And do you think in like 5 years, it's going to be, this isn't even news anymore?
No. I think it's always going to be news.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be news. I mean, I'm interested in it. I click on the story. I want to know sort of almost why, like her mindset for it all, because like, I thought I knew you, and now you're saying like something the opposite of what you've been portraying on camera, like Chrishell, like Kyle Richards, portraying like I'm interested in this man or men in general, and now they're going actually this. I think
so. You kind of want to know: did she know it all along, and she was just kind of feigning for the camera? Which reality shows are all bullshit, so we know that happens. Or is it something that was latent within her, and she didn't really realize it, and now it all of a sudden occurred to her? That's possible too.
I don't think she was actively trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. I think you just get in this situation and you make the best of it.
Or she was playing a character.
Or she was playing a character.
And she was kind of, pulling the wool. Everybody in reality television, right, is trying to play a role. So A, they're cast, and B, they're funny and interesting, and then C, they can get cast, so they can get cast again or be popular or make lots of money and stay along for many seasons in the case of Selling Sunset or whatever. And this could just be part of the shtick, right? She didn't think that it would serve her career well if she came out as bisexual or gay or whatever it is. And so she just sort of played along. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the natural cynic in me just goes, why is it, with anyone on reality, I question,
right,
the stuff in front of me.
I'm with you.
Because everything's good for their career if they're in the news.
Yeah, the Kardashians have poisoned us, right? Because everything they do is crap. Nothing is very authentic. It's all a means to an end of ratings or whatever. And so everybody else seems to, and there's a lot of following on that. Obviously, it's the most successful reality whatever ever.
Yes.
So, it makes sense that there's a lot of good reason to be cynical about the whole thing.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't done, or maybe they will do now, sort of like either a gay or lesbian bachelor or like a bisexual sort of.
They've done them, just not on big network. Oh, you mean on the actual Bachelor franchise itself?
Well, Bachelor is the biggest dating show,
Yes,
and they're yet to do that. You're right. There have been smaller dating shows
Right.
who have tried that sort of stuff, but if two of their biggest contestants or whatever have come out, like Gabby and Colton, let's do it.
Do you think that they'd be better served from a ratings perspective of 2 men or 2 women, or I'm sorry, a gay bachelor or a gay bachelorette?
I mean, unfortunately, I think we all know the answer to that.
It's a gay bachelorette, right?
Bachelorette.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's more palatable, mainstream. It shouldn't be. It should be. We should be accepting of
course,
of both equally.
But from a ratings perspective, there's no doubt about it. There's a titillation that comes from the women, sort of, that just doesn't exist with men.
Totally,
Right?
I think so. So that might be the first shoe to drop, maybe
Yeah.
at ABC doing The Bachelor.
Well, Gabby could come back. I mean, she seems to be a natural fit. She's really beautiful. She's done The Bachelorette a couple of times. She knows how the game is played. She's now sort of indicated publicly that she's willing to date women. She really should be the next, in the works.
That'd be bad news for her girlfriend, Robbie Hoffman.
Yeah.
She's dating a girl right now. She'd have to, and this Robbie Hoffman, she's
Don't
already
point out those practicalities to me. I was going with my show.
Robbie's already fallen on hard times because she's a writer. She's a comedy writer.
Oh,
so she's out of work right now.
Poor
you
Robbie.
Don't want her to lose her girlfriend too, and then see her on screen fighting another girl.
Rough week for Robbie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Beckerman. I appreciate it, mate.
Charlie, it's a pleasure. You're doing great work here.
Thank
Couldn't
you very
be more
much.
proud.
Thank you, Beckerman. All right, guys. We'll see you here tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.